that's what it should be like. Right?
I'd personally love to see the kill feed shut down. Just get
I
rid
would
of
agree
kill
with that.
mails.
Yeah,
Yeah,
why?
Well,
get
you can
rid of.
have kill mails in game, but like
You can
get
have
rid of.
Killmails, but give the option to share them, and don't
I,
have a tool like Zkill that allows for alliances to have like automatic posting, because
Yep.
that adds an extra element to the game that I think would actually be more fun from you having the ability to control the information you're putting out there, and then use that to your advantage or disadvantage in certain scenarios. And equally, the person who gets killed can share their lost mail again with their alliance for the same thing, right? Gather intel, share, and communicate, and so forth. Like for our style of gameplay, that would be huge. Like the first thing we do every time we drop, the first question is always, "Has the kill been posted? Has the kill been posted?" It's something
yeah,
we actively call out in comments because it makes a huge difference.
Nick
But
says
I
poor
think
squid
there's
or get rid of Zkill. That's not what they're suggesting. They're suggesting it's just not
like
automatic, right? So you
I
have to
would
go
love
there and post them.
I would love to see Z kill change to like a player stats. So you could have your stats, but you don't have individual kills because I feel like Z kill is used to. It can also be used to shame people for kills or for losses or for stuff like so. If you get blasted all over Reddit because you lose a Moloch in Losec because you took a fight that you probably shouldn't have or you got baited or whatever, um, you're not going to do that again because the you're being shamed basically by for doing stuff in the game, and I think that is a lot of reasons why people won't take fights. Like if you look at the war, Pando, do you remember how much people were putting emphasis on ISK wars? Like, oh, we won the ISK war by 20
Yeah, it's
bills,
the
so
only
we
way of
won.
measurement, though, right? See, it's like objective and then score. If the objective is, it's easily disregarded. It's easily like we didn't want that objective anyway. You can always say that. So it's always about the score at the end of the day. You know what I mean? It's the only thing
Yeah,
that can be measured. And you also remember in the war, and I talked about that before. I always thought that was funny. That the Pabi guys had the objective. They could have still achieved it, but they had the ISK war at that moment, and that's where they said, okay, if we leave now, we win the ISK war. And then they left and ignored the objective.
yeah.
And then we bombed them on the gate, and then they lost the ISK war. And I thought like that happened more than once. Not necessarily that we bombed them, but it happened more than once that they just like left with the option, like they could have achieved the objective, but they focused on the ISK war. And you know what? I'm not sure if that's a good or a bad thing. You know what I mean? It's like for us it kind of helped, So it's like maybe it adds like another dimension to it that's fun. But you are right. It could also be that it shouldn't be playing a role, and it should just focus on like what is happening on grid. And at the end of the day, maybe nobody should be caring about like how much S did we kill or whatever, right? It's like yeah,
But
maybe yeah.
imagine if you had Z kill for CS:GO, right? And like your stats are so fucking terrible that you just get flamed out of the game. Because like
Yeah.
when we play CS, if you walk away with 25 kills and I get 5 kills, like if people can look that up, it's I
It
mean they
has been
can
a
look it up,
while
but
since you had like a 5 kill
no,
match.
no, but you know what I
Yeah,
mean. Like if
yeah, I know.
you're,
Maybe you
I
wouldn't
just
have gotten to the level you're at now
I, j- I,
if
don't-
that was the case.
I think it's cool to look at Z kill and stuff. And this isn't about Z kill. This is about the whole, I
Yeah,
guess, thing around it. But yeah, I don't know.
yeah,
Zkill's just a vessel for these conversations because they're the de facto killboard, right? Like that everybody
yeah.
uses, but the larger conversation is just about like the automated, I think, killboards and the information that's posted. What I will say is like my biggest gripe with that whole thing is actually just the mentality behind it, where groups nowadays won't take fights because they go, oh, you know what? Like the odds of us winning here are like 30%, 35%, so we're not going to take the fight
You know what's
because
funny?
the IS score is too much risk, and it's like that for me is the saddest part of the game because if you're not willing to take the fight and just play outnumbered and have the chance of that thrill of going, holy crap, we just dunked on these guys, we just pulled this off, this is amazing. Like, what's the point of playing the game if you're only gonna take fights you win? What's the point?
You
But
know,
that's what happens a lot, unfortunately.
It's just so sad though. I get that's what happens, how the game is, and frankly, I know it will never change. But like it is very sad that like the net reality is like taking fights that you have a higher chance of losing, but if you play really well, there's still a chance that you can pull off. It should be something that I think more people feel empowered to do. not just you
So-
jumped in, you fed, and therefore you're gonna get like memed out
But-
now for 2 days straight, right?
Wouldn't you also say there were fights in the past? Right, I'm thinking back, Syndicate times, Bush Ravens, where you would have the objectives there, they're hitting our fort or whatever, and we would undock anyway to just deal as much damage as possible. And if we wouldn't have a value at the end, wouldn't that take something away from it? I'm not saying we wouldn't do it necessarily, or we wouldn't have done it at the time, but like, wouldn't that be? It would give, would take a little bit away from it. Wouldn't you say that?
I would agree. It definitely takes a piece away of it. I guess the problem here is not necessarily the values behind it per se. It's more just the mentality that comes with those values. That's really what we're getting at.
Yeah,
like,
but you don't have anything, any way of measuring your success at the end. If you don't win the objective, you have zero way of measuring your impact in the fight. Wouldn't you say that's a problem?
once a fight is all said and done, yes, you can look at that and go, okay, this gives us a sense of what happened.
Maybe a
But
delay?
you also
No.
And that's where delay is like the default thing that always comes to my mind. Like the point I'm getting is like that risk calculation that you make to take a fight shouldn't always just be down to there's a 70% chance or a 60% chance that we lose the IS score if we take this fight, so we're not going to take that fight.
What about a middle ground? What about you get Killmails and instantly like they are right now, but it doesn't say anything about the fitting. So the intel about what is the fit someone's flying, because that's another intel thing, right? Especially when it comes to small scale guard. Like, you know, the fittings are shared there too. But like, what if like someone pimps out his stuff? Like, should people know? I mean, the dude who kills him can see in the loot, oh, there's some good stuff in there, but he doesn't necessarily know how shiny it was. So like, maybe that would take away enough of the negative parts of it, but leaves the whole, like, yeah, we killed whatever, like 20 ravens in this fight. So you still get that, you know? Would that be maybe the middle ground?
You know those influencers who go into a restaurant and they'll get like a really nice plate of food and then they just spend 20 minutes taking pictures of it instead of eating
it gets cold.
Yeah. And then it gets cold and it's not nice. I think you should just have fun eating the meal instead of taking pictures and posting them on social media. That's how I feel about Zekiel.
That's such a good way of putting it. It's very true, though. I 100% agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with it too. And you know, I don't care about ISK, right? You know that very well. But I also know newbie Pando who like started PvPing in Faction Warfare, and I know that guy went back to not Z-Kill, I don't know what it was, Battle Clinic or whatever it was back in the day, to just check on like, how did I do today? You know, is it green? Is it red? For newer players, I do think it is an important kind of indicator if you're on the right path, kind of. You know what I mean?
I agree. I think it's a good way to check. You know, am I doing good? Am I doing bad? I think. You know, I guess it comes back to, for me, it's less about at the end of the day, am I green or red? It's more about how do you quantify the unquantifiable? I guess to a certain extent of like the risk that you took taking that fight, because that's the bit for me that in all of these changes, the bit that I'd like to encourage and see more is like more people willing to take risks. And you know, I think I would like to think that with the way that we play the game, that we embody that. I mean, case in point, we gated supers into a dread bomb because we thought we're gonna fuck around and find out. Like, this is gonna suck, but let's have some fun.
So
right? Like,
yeah. So basically,
I'd like to see more people do that, right?
So basically, what you're trying to say is also, so Zekiel never tells the full story, right? So if you jump in your super, right? Just hypothetically, you jump in your super and you take a risk and then you lose your super. Nobody sees the whole story. They just see that super on the kill board, right?
I mean, that is the case. Like, for me, like the amount of messages that I get from people who are like laughing, like, you entered your super, like you got dread bombed, you got baited, etc. It's like, actually, no. In our case, like, we watched them for 3 days straight, knowing they were bait, and then on the third day, someone called, I tackled it. Should we do it? We're like so bored. We're like, you know what? Let's just see what they've got. Let's see what they drop. It'll be fun. And we didn't even ping in it. Like, Shines can back this up. We didn't even ping in it to say we're gonna go do this. Literally, what happened is one of our guys in comms said, I've tackled it, and we went, fuck it. And we all just went in and we literally gated into system. We didn't sino in, we gated into bubbles, into sinos, at 0 on dreads, 50k away, and just started fragging. Because we just wanted to have fun, right? It was like an 80% chance that we all died there. Like, it's probably even higher, to be honest. Like, but that level of risk, I would like to see more
But
more aggressive play.
Wouldn't that be an argument for Zekiel having more information then? So maybe Zekiel should
yes.
tell more of the story. For example, let's say you fight a 1v1, let's say Drekavik versus Drekavik, but then suddenly there's a Guardian falling out of warp, saving the other dude. Just a little bit, right? Shouldn't that Guardian be on your lost mail then? Saying like, oh yeah, I fought a Drekavik and a Guardian. But no, it's not, right? It's only going to say like, oh yeah, they had a Drekavik 1v1 and he lost, right? That's what it says at the end. Shouldn't that Guardian be on that mail then, right?
I mean, that's where the lack of timelines of Killmails, right, is challenging, because you don't see from a Killmail when things start. You just see how it ends. So yeah, I agree from that perspective. Like, if Killmails were more detailed, that would go to some end result. But I guess the problem here is, like, maybe this is me just being blindly optimistic, but like, it's the mentality shift of like, how do you get, Shines, I'll ask you this, like, how do you get when you're seeing a fleet, to decide to take more risks? And I would already categorize you as someone who is willing to take more risks and willing to go all in more. But how do you encourage you to take even more risks, such that you as an FC can get the satisfaction of going, I took a larger risk here, but it paid off because I won. But also for your line members as well, to have a better experience, because they know, they can be more motivated, that they're putting themselves in these higher risk, more aggressive scenarios. But in exchange of that, the wins feel so much better.
Yeah, I mean, it's always like whoever you are, fighting outnumbered and winning is always going to feel better than, I mean, look, we dropped 80 capitals on a 10-man East Wind Dread Bomb the other day, and
Una reverse card.
you know, people were
The
so
dirty
happy because they
blobbers.
got to fly their dreads, but like,
That's so
we blobbed
sad,
the
right?
absolute fuck out of them, right? I felt sorry for them, but what are you going to do? Um, and that doesn't feel good. But if you look at Snuff, like, they are the experts on fighting outnumbered. Like, when they drop dreads and stuff, they are min maxing the shit out of everything, and they're just
In low sec.
absolutely slaughtering. And it doesn't matter where it is. Like, they're slaughtering stuff that's coming against them. Even big alliances like Initiative and Goons and etc. They're always going to feel better. But like, as an FC, for me, it doesn't matter. I can take fights outnumbered and I can lose. Like, I can whelp a fucking Napoc fleet tomorrow, and I might get laughed at. People might think, like, what the fuck was Shines thinking? But the next day when I ping, I'm going to get the same numbers again. Like, people are still going to join my fleets because I'm established. They know who I am, and hopefully people have fun on the fleets. If you're in UFC trying to learn Eve, and you take out like a Ferox fleet or a Munin fleet, or even a Kiki fleet, and you feed, like, let's say Kiki fleet, you end up going in, you try for a dread, it doesn't work because you're not a known FC, you didn't get the numbers you needed, the dread managed to get out, and you're warping back to your wormhole, and then suddenly you realize that there's a smart bombing battleship on your wormhole, and you lose everybody. The next day, when you see a Navy Phoenix issue doing a crab beacon and you ping for people, you're not going to get numbers. So, and a lot of that is because people are going to like take a Zkill link to a battle report and post that and say, well, fucking look at Pando. He's in UFC. He's after taking this fleet out and he whelped 50 Kikis. Like, fuck, I'm not joining his fleets anymore. And that's what happens in Eve. Like, you
Yeah.
have to make a name for yourself, and that is very hard to do when you have the other side. And I mean, we do this as well. Nobody's innocent of it. But when you've the other side using Zkill as a psychological tool against other people, like, just enjoy the game. It doesn't matter what the odds are. Just go for it. And if you lose, you lose. If you win, you win. Fantastic.
Yeah.
But take the fights anyway, and it could be awesome.